What's up YouTube, Dar here from Zephyr War Games, and because you guys smashed the like button on that Crystal Beast profile so much, I thought I would bring you a control version of the deck. Now the difference between the combo version and the control version is basically exactly what it says on the tin. It's all about utilizing Crystal Concave. You play a lot less Crystal Beast, and as you'll see from the extra deck, you really do not go anywhere near your fusion monsters. You kind of control the board more so with your back row, and then during turn 3, because you've been able to maintain and regain additional resource, you're then able to pretty much just go XYZ turbo and finish the game off from there. So with all of that out of the way, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell and subscribe. If this video gets above 50 likes in the first 24 hours, I will then either bring you another full power, no budget restriction combo version of the deck, or I will bring you test stands for the control version as well. With all of that out of the way, let's dive headfirst into the profile. Massive shout out to Neshi. I'm not sure if that is the origin of this particular type of deck for these, but it was the first video that I saw where he kind of utilized Crystal Concave. Also, massive shout out to Tom and Joe, who kind of helped inspired to put this deck together. Now I've adapted this, I've made it my own. I have put in some additional text and I'll explain everything as we go. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit and we'll work from there. So the only Crystal Beast you play is the Triple Pegasus and the 1 Ruby Carbuncle. You really don't need to use the others. You're pretty much just going to Sapphire Pegasus turbo this out. You'll go through pretty much all 3 in the first turn, and then you'll get the ability to pretty much be able to replace from the graveyard. So from that point, what you're going to be doing is once you've got them out of the deck, you've deck finned about 4 cards, you're then going to start putting them from the graveyard to the spell and trap zone, and then you're going to be rank 4 turbo. The other card that we utilise to the max is Triple Crystal Beast Rainbow Dragon. So we play 3 of this and then 1 Rainbow Dragon itself. Now the reason you play the Rainbow Dragon is because you need to reveal it as an ultimate Crystal Beast, and on top of that as well, you need it in the deck to activate and resolve this effect. And what you're doing is you're going to be banishing this from the field to then summon out a Pegasus, which is really important because again it will allow you to continue to make your plays. Not to mention that this is a massive boss monster that you sometimes summon for its own effect, but can also summon through stuff like Carbuncle and everything else. And what it really does is it just gives you a 3k beat monster, and if you want to, you can dive into a rank 8 play. You will never summon Rainbow Dragon in this particular build because you're never going to have the 7 Crystal Beasts with different names. It is literally there for the ultimate Crystal Beast quick play spell, so the Awakening of the Crystal Ultimates, in order to kind of set everything up and search everything you need. The other crystal monster that we now play in this particular version is the Crystal Master. The reason this is so good is you get to tribute this card to add an ultimate crystal monster or a crystal beast monster or a crystal spell and trap. Now obviously if we're playing control, we want to be searching out our crystal spells and traps in the form of Miracle, obviously the Crystal Ultimates because it has crystal in the name, Crystal Bombs, Conclave, and of course, like as I said, Miracle. The best thing about that as well is it does tribute as cost, so you can protect it with stuff like Gamma, which we also play. So just for the hand traps as well, so you can see them all together. We've got the Ash Blossom playset that you got on the structure deck, and then we've got the Gamma Driver package. Now, obviously, the reason I've got the Gamma Driver package in here, yes, it's rare that my opponent will, in this current state, hand trap me when I don't have a monster on the board, but on those odd chances, because we are playing so many search cards that get hit by Ash Blossom, you've got Rainbow Bridge of the Heart with an additional normal summon, you've got Crystal Ultimates that searches, Bomb that searches, Bridge that searches. There's a high possibility that they could even draw and lock you going into game 2 and 3. And with the Gamma play, because you're not locking yourself into anything specifically, being able to Gamma, Driver, and then go into an Omega to rip another one from the hand, it just basically allows you to minimize your opponent's resources, because you're then going to be able to control it with your concaves with bounces, your bridges with bounces, and everything else as well. So that's it for the main monster deck. Keep in mind as well, because this is a pendulum, when it goes face up to the extra, you can also banish it with Prosperity. Spoiler, we are playing Prosperity in this version. If you don't own it, you can swap it up for Desires if you want to. It is a 42 card deck with it, so you could cut it out and put Miracle in as 1. We are just increasing the consistency of this deck to its max potential. For these spells, we've got triple Rainbow Bridge. So this will pretty much let you add any crystal, spell, and trap from your deck to the hand. So I'll actually going to lay out all the crystals together. So that can search you out your Awakening of the crystals. It can also search you out your crystal bonds. And then when you move into the traps, it can pretty much search you out your Conclave and can also search you out your Miracle. I'll explain why I'm playing 2 Miracle like now, basically. But the reason I'm playing 2 Miracle is I wanted to try and keep it down. I had to push it to 42 because I really wanted to fit Pot of Prosperity in. But the idea is I felt that you got to be careful not to brick on these, because this one needs you to destroy a Crystal Beast card. This one needs you to return a Crystal Beast card you control. The only card that will ever stay on the field that isn't a natural monster or moved into the spell and trap zone is Rainbow Bridge of the Heart, which is incredibly powerful because it gives you an additional normal summon. It gives you the ability to pop and search, and then it also gives you the ability that, for example, if you activate this on the new chain, if a Crystal Beast card is placed into your spell and trap zone, you get to target a card your opponent tries and return both that to the hand. So not only do you negate a card, so for example, if you take the branded matchup, normal summon Lubar, effect to search, let that go through. You can then activate the Crystal Miracle on the branded fusion, and then use this to bounce your Luba back to the hand, so then your Luba can't just attack over anything. It gives you a nice kind of way of controlling the opponent's board. And then, like I said, if you've already gammed a hand trap and then Omega the hand trap out, or a card out that they might need to start or continue to play in, you're really controlling your opponent at your max potential. The only other kind of like technical crystal card we're playing is the one Rainbow Bridge of Salvation. Now you do have other ways, like if you draw this, it is a bit of annoyance because we do play the Foolish Burial of Goods. So if you draw it, it can be a bit annoying. It's not as easy to get out. That's when you need to be playing or relying on your stuff like the Daguerreos and everything else. But the idea behind this is that you're going to send it to the graveyard. I'm just going to tie this up a little bit. So you're going to send that to the graveyard with Foolish Burial of Goods or any of your other cards as well, because you can send it with your Awakening of the Crystal Ultimates. And what you're going to do off the back of that is you're then going to be able to banish it to search you out a Crystal Beast monster, being mainly Pegasus, and then you get to search out a field spell. So because we're going control, we've got Necro Valley and Mystic Mine. Now the Necro Valley is going to be your best card going first, because you then just go, okay, activate Necro Valley. You're not really going to be moving anything in your graveyard. You're not going for your big fusion monsters, so you do not worry about it at all. And then you're controlling your opponent with Necro Valley, Conclaves, Bridge of the Hearts, you name it. It's going to be very difficult. Like, unless your opponent's opened up evenly matched and you don't have a Miracle, or they've opened up 2 evenly matched, it's going to be very difficult for your opponent to try and break this. The Mystic Mine is here for going second. The one thing that this deck is currently missing is like the form of Droplets or Dark Rulers. I kind of feel that Droplets is a little bit more difficult to do. Yes, you're going to have so many resources that you could, in theory, like banish or get rid of in order to kind of deal with your opponent's stuff. However, when you take that into account, it can get a little bit tricky burning out so many resources to deal with a board. Also, when you look at the tier element matchup, yes, Dark Ruler No More can be quite good, but because they have the ability to trigger stuff in hand and grave and Silic and everything else, it might not be the end of the turn just by doing that. Whereas if you get the ability to just go, cool, Bridge of Salvation, activate Mystic Mine, you can then work your way to regaining some resources. You can then control them with Conclave, bounce like their back rows, leaving their monsters alone. You're only going to put 1 or 2 monsters on the board. You can make Baguska. You can ultimately lead yourself into a Zeus, and then Zeus the entire board, putting everyone back to 1 card each. And then that's when you can just go, cool, I'll slap a Necro Valley on the board, or I'm going to slap a Concave with a Crystal Beast on board, and then control it from there. So it gives you the ability to break a board going second, and because it's easily searchable through Salvation and then the 2 Foolish Burial of Goods, to me, it was pretty much a no-brainer to do it. The other consistent search cards, like I said, you're digging for your control cards or you're digging for your search cards, is Prosperity. And then to protect everything outright, you've got Call By. So technically, you've got 4 ways in the form of Call By the Grave and then 3 Gammas to protect from being drolled and ashed. And like I said, the more experienced players probably won't ash you on an empty board. But like I said, you've just got so many ways of doing it. So like you've got Master, you've also got technically Foolish Burial can be stopped as well. Your Bridge of Salvation can be stopped. You've also got technically this can be stopped with a Ghost Ogre, your Bonds and your Awakening. So and your Bridge as well. So you've got 7 single cards there, but then Bridge is a free of, this is a free of, this is a 1 of, this is a free of, 1 of, 2 of, and 3 of. So you've got so many cards in your deck that your opponent will be highly tempted to try and stop that. If you do have that gamma, you just punish them massively. Moving on to the extra deck, I'll go over the links first, because the links are pretty much your power engine. So what I mean by that is it's your standard access code, and then you've got your BLS because you're going to be summoning out the Crystal Rainbow, which is basically going to be your level 8 or higher. You've got Unicorn. I've got the Lambda because, of course, if you do open up the gamma later game or opponent just doesn't open up any hand traps, you could ultimately go for Lambda, and then you mean you've got your Omega free to rock and roll. Phoenix, IP Masquerena. So like IP into a BLS soldier is insane to try and deal with. And then of course we've got the 1 Omega, because I feel that if you're playing the Gamma package and you've got space in your extra deck to like double, like not only does Gamma act as a hand trap during your opponent's turn, which lets you deck things because you get the driver out of the deck, but if you do it during your turn as well, considering if your opponent puts like an Omni Negate on the board and you activate a card, like it's more tempting for them to try and negate it then, rather than trying to Ash Blossom something during your turn, but you still just then go, okay, cool, punish them with a Gamma, get an Omega, rip whatever card they have in their hand. Like if they're sitting on a Super Poly or something, you rip that one card, they're not playing. And then it will cause them a lot of issues. For the XYZs, working backwards, we've got Zeus. Zeus is always a questionable one in control decks, but it is just one of them ones where it's like, okay, well, how can I clear a board that's already been presented to me under Mystic Mine? How do I out my own Mystic Mine? Well, you've got that as an option. You've then got the 1 Ding as your rank 8 player. You can play Hope Harbinger, you can play the Galaxy Monster as well. It really depends. For the rank 4s, you've got Chidori. Like, just being able to bounce your opponent's stuff is amazing. Like, it's such a good card that if it wasn't wind locked, I still feel it would be a card that would get used in some rank 4 decks today. The fact that it can bounce a set and a face art is really, really cool. Baguska, if you want to go back to basic plays, Baguska control the board and work it from there. Dweller, because sometimes like Bagusa against a tier deck might not be that great, so you just go, alright, you know what, I'll make a Beast Dweller instead, turns their entire board off, and then you OTK the next turn. I put the 1 Redo in here. What I like about this is I can make this, like all of these XYZs are only ever going to get 1 Zeus end. Whereas if I make Redoer, as long as I don't banish him and lose all the materials and I control my opponent's board with a Redoer, I can stack Redoer so high that when I do make a Zeus, I'm going to be able to control that board for 2 free turns. Tornado Dragon for back rows, floodgates, you name it. And then the last one will be a Cowboy, just for those time rules. As a control deck, it's obviously going to be naturally a little bit slower. Obviously, not massively, because combos will take like 7 minutes, give or take, maybe more. You'll be a little bit faster back and forth. But then because a lot of time is spent thinking, more so for your opponent trying to figure out how to break your board than it is yourself. You do need that option to win in time. If your opponent does like the cheeky of, you know what, I'm going to make them go first in game 3, and then I'll burn them or I'll attack them, I'll let them speed through their play because they'll just set 4, I'll break that board and then go. You can go Cowboy, burn for 800, and then you put the pressure back on your opponent, because then they can't then activate an evenly match because they need their battle phase. They can't then activate a Dark Rule no more because they'll need the battle phase. They definitely won't be putting in Cosmics if you're going into game 3 as well, because paying that 1,000 life points unless they can guarantee the damage is going to be very, very risky. And that is it. In comparison with the combo version, I think the combo version, in my opinion, is more fun. It makes your brain think a lot. However, I feel that it is less consistent. I feel there's more choke points for it. Whereas I think with something like the control build, like your opening hand of 5 could mean anything. There's a lot of plays it can make. There's a lot of routes it can take as well. And it can just play through a lot. Like, each of your cards are just ideally there to search up or set up your concave. And if your opponent stops one, you'll usually 9 out of 10 have a fallback on the other. Like, the consistency in this deck with the amount of search cards they have is crazy. So it's never just end all be all. Anyway, I hope you found this profile helpful. I hope it's given you an idea on the control build. Again, massive shout out to Nessie, Joe, and of course Tom, who have kind of helped me work through these Crystal Beast profiles, and then Nessie for the inspiration for the control version, and kind of go from there. If you don't have any of the expensive cards within the deck, like I said, the prosperities you can take out. Access code, you don't rely on it heavily. Zeus, you don't rely on it heavily. They're just there to board break. You can start adapting those for other rank 4s, other link 2s, other generic plays you want, and work it that way. Anyway, as absolutely always, guys, stay safe, and of course, happy dueling.